and welcome back to the end of the year. One of four end of the year videos I've got to do. So, yeah, we're in the new year, but it's not the full week of the first new year yet. We're at the end of the year. I've got the day off today, so it seems like the perfect day to get all these out. So I used to start with just the worst and best. Then I moved into doing the end of the year box office, and then a viewer of mine asked if I could also do my top animated films of the year. And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna do like one for like every single genre. Like you're not gonna see the best horror movies, comic books, action films, but because first and foremost, I don't get out to see every movie every year. I see a lot of movies, but I don't see every movie. But the animated movies generally are usually all a part of like the mainstream, or if they're not mainstream, they're accessible enough for me to view. So that I felt was an easy list to add. It's one that a lot of people would probably be interested in. So let's just get into it then. I have seven movies I've seen. 7 anime movies I've seen this year. Now I do know there have been a couple more. They're either too obscure for me to watch, or I never got around to seeing them, and at this point, I'm probably not going to see them. But coming in at number 7, the worst, and this is how you can tell it was a good year for animation. My number 7 is Despicable Me 4. I have never actually, think about this for a second, I've never actually watched in their entirety any of the original Despicable Me's. Now, I've seen enough of them to at least go and see this movie. And I've also seen the 2 Minion movies that came prior to this. The 3 Minion movies that came prior to this. No, it was the 2. Wait, Minions 2. Was it Minions 2, The Rise of Gru, or that was the Minions 3? Anyway, I've seen the Minion movies. I've seen the Minion movies. That's what it was. And I'm like, okay, let's see if this is going to be any good. And look, I'll say what I said about pretty much the next movie on the list. It's fine. It really wasn't my thing, but I had a decent enough time. I can see why people would have enjoyed it. I can see how families would have just kept taking their kids to see it. Because it is just a nice hour and a half little babysitter movie. It really is. There were definitely jokes I did think didn't work. The animation still looks nice. I don't believe it was Steve Carell doing the voice. I believe they had changed up the voice, which, whatever. But at the same time, there was enough jokes I did think worked. I did like the end too, where it's everybody wants to world say that you'll never take me, no. Yeah, them doing just the karaoke there, or the open mic night there. That was pretty fun. There was fun to be had. I also don't even think like the Super Minions stuff was really overdone at all. I thought the villain was actually kind of fun. This guy was obsessed with cockroaches. So the weakest of the big 7 was Despicable Me 4, which was just all right. Coming in then, number 6, another film that I thought was all right but a little bit better, was Garfield. A lot of people are just kind of sick of Chris Pratt right now. I don't see it personally. I know he said some things, like in his personal life, about like his personal views on certain things, but like this is about separating the art from the artist, the actor from like their personal life. Now, if you're just kind of getting like oversaturated with Chris Pratt right now, that's fine. I'm not saying you don't have to love Chris Pratt or anything like that, but it's the same with Jack Black, who won't be on this list later with Kung Fu Panda. Like, when do we just decide, okay, I'm done, I hate these people? Like, really? I don't quite get it, but whatever. I don't see people ever saying that about, well, that's not true. I do hear people saying that about someone like Kevin Hart, but I mean, most people don't seem to have that big of an issue with Kevin Hart versus like someone like Chris Pratt or Jack Black. And again, it's because they're just oversaturated or just said things people don't like. Whatever. But anyway, Garfield itself, look, it wasn't what I would like from Garfield. I remember watching Come to the Place. Well, how is it? Come on in, come to the place where fun never ends. Come on in, come to the place with Garfield and friends. I remember watching that as a kid, and I loved that version of Garfield. There we go. Yeah, sorry, my dog's getting all comfortable here. There we go. Get comfy and snuggly. Yeah, you get snuggly. But yeah, I remember that version of Garfield. That's the Garfield I'm more in tune with. Like, I did not like the Bill Murray ones, really. And I like Bill Murray a lot. I love Bill Murray. He's a fun actor. Doesn't always play the best roles, but he's a fun actor. But yeah, those aren't my cup of tea. Look, I think this is kind of like the middle ground between Garfield and Friends and like the comics and that. It's not fantastic, but I do think it was better than Despicable Me. I think it was a bit more up my alley because there wasn't a huge adventure, but there was problems that Garfield could overwhelm or overcome. Like I did still get the vibe of Garfield. It's just Chris Pratt's voice really, yeah, it wasn't really all that. It wasn't the best choice. I think that's the best way to put it. But overall, I still felt there was enough of Garfield in there to make me enjoy it. And I did have fun near the end where Garfield, like, you know, he does what he does best. He orders a pizza, and therefore, you know, he now has control over the fleet. And he uses his skills to like win the day. So I did think that worked all right. I like the idea of Samuel Jackson being his dad. I thought that was fine. It was fine. If you were to ask me which I'd rather watch again, I would say Garfield. That's easily why trumps Despicable Me. I don't think I'd really care about watching Despicable Me 4 again, save for the fun of that ending scene. And I'm not saying through an entire movie. I'll just go online and watch that clip. So coming in at number 5, we have Kung Fu Panda. Yeah, he's in his 4th film now. Boom. Kung Fu Panda still made $500 at the box office. Didn't even rhyme that one, but whatever. Yeah, Kung Fu Panda 4. Honestly, look, the Kung Fu Panda series is a series that you would think ran its course. Would have ran its course in the first film, but they were able to make a second one, which was even better, and a third one, which is honestly just probably as good as at least the first film, in my opinion. So when they said they're making a 4th one, I was a little dubious, and the trailers weren't all that great. But maybe they're saving something. And I just watched it, I'm like, it's probably the weakest one, but you know what? It's a good time. It's still got that feeling of Poe being Poe. You got Awkwafina in there now. We had, what was it? It was Viola Davis voicing the chameleon, right? Who is arguably the weakest bad guy. I'll give him that. But still interesting concept. You know, they're giving him a new challenge, no longer being the Dragon Warrior, but being something more than the Dragon Warrior. And like passing on the torch. I did like all that, and it still looks good. There is still a lot of comedy that works in it. The Kung Fu is still very good. And I do like the resolution at the end there. Where it's like, wait, you could have gotten out of that the whole time? What the hell? Then why did you? I wouldn't be a good teacher if I did everything for you, do what I? It's like, so yeah. And then the Fearsome Five, the fact they didn't bring them back, I do think hurt the film a little bit. But to be fair, I'm not sure how you could have brought them back in there. I was a Ki Kwan who played the pangolin. I did like him too. It's like, we fight now so we can steal it. It's like, no, you're really taking the wrong thing away from this. And then, he gave us still a great cover of Hit Me Baby One More Time. I was listening to that for a while in the good cards, like you try to say, hit me baby one more time. Like, I'm singing that all the time. So, you know what? Good time. Probably the best babysitting movie of the 3 movies we talked about so far. But now we're into the top 4. Now we're getting to the films that were legitimately really good. Coming in number 4, we have Transformers 1. I like Transformers. I'm not a big Transformers fan. I like him. I honestly grew up more on Beast Wars than Transformers. I love Beast Wars. And so that's why I was actually kind of very forgiving of the Beast. What was it? The most recent one, Transformers Rise of the Beasts. I was forgiving of that one. And honestly, take out Bumblebee out of the equation, it arguably is probably among the best of the live action ones. It's probably on par with the first one, in my opinion. It's better than 2 through 4. That's for freaking sure. But no, sorry, not 2 through 4, 2 through 5. That's for it's better than 2 through 5. That's for freaking sure. So yeah, when they saw them, I'm like, oh, and Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry, it's Megatron. Oh, I'm not saying that, but then I watched it and I'm like, you know what? This is pretty awesome. It's giving us lore while giving us kind of a fresh take on the Transformers. Origins that make sense. The one issue I think this film had at the box office, because it didn't do well at the box office, it was critically and audience-wise very well received, but it didn't do well financially. The thing about it is, I think it was a little too inside baseball for the general movie-going audience. I think that's why it didn't do well, because it is very lore-specific with like terms, concepts, races that normal fans probably wouldn't care about that much. So I do see why it probably didn't do as well as it should have. But all that being said, I still think it was really well done. Like you bought both the friendship and the end of the friendship between Optimus and Megatron, and it was sad to see, because you really grew to like these guys as a duo, as friends, and then it just ended. So yeah, it sucked, but it was really great. It was a really great starting point for a new theoretical Transformers franchise that may not happen now because it just didn't do well. Still, I deeply enjoyed it. It was a great time, but not as good as the remaining three. Coming in number 3, I have Moana 2. Now, I will, again, say up front, just as I did in both my out of the theater reaction and my review for the movie, it is not as good as the first movie. It's not as good as the first movie, but it doesn't need, a film doesn't need to be as good or better than its predecessor to be a good movie. And this is a very good movie. Now, like I said in my review too, I can see how it was originally supposed to be a series. It does feel more structured like a TV series that got re-edited and posted into a movie. But that being said, I still love the character of Maui. I still like the character of Moana a great deal. Some of the new characters I liked very much. That the Bat lady thing, Demigod, I don't remember her name. I really liked her character. I liked the some of the songs I liked, but then I liked the climax of the film. And I'll be honest, I agree with a lot of people. While the film on a whole isn't as good as the first movie, that last 30 minutes is better than the last 30 minutes of the original movie. I have come to agree that it's, and I like the fact too. By the way, it's still out in theaters, so I'm not going to spoil too much on it. Because it's still doing well enough at the box office that I should not say too much on it. And it's 900 million, and I'd love to see it hit $1 billion. Because Disney, when we get to the box office, had a damn good year this year. But yeah, overall, I think it still looks visually stunning. The water effects are so gorgeous. The character designs are still great. And it is still a very, very good movie. And I do think if you were to, again, these top 5 right now, I could rewatch and still have a good time. But if you were to say among the top of 3 through 5, which I would rewatch first among anything else, it would be Moana 2. But now we get into the last 2. And if you're paying attention to the animated films, the main ones, anyway, you'll get an idea of what number 2 and number 1 are going to be. Because then you'll know immediately what number 1 is. Coming in at number 2, we have The Wild Robot. I did not know this was based off a children's book at first. But me and my girlfriend saw the trailer and we're like, this trailer is designed to make me cry a little bit and get the emotional feels in there for me. And my girlfriend's like, oh, we gotta go see it. And we saw it and we loved this movie. Personally, I think Inside Out 2 will get the Best Animated Film of the Year award. I do think it will. But if it's not that, it will be Wild Robot. By a mile, those are 2, spoilers obviously, but those are the 2 animated films that were next level. Like, they were the next level of animation this year. Not like truly they're breaking the mold and doing this is the next era of animation. No, but I mean, of everything that came out in this year, this is the level the other bottom 5 are at, all the 5. And this is the level they're hanging in. And these guys are on this pedestal right here. It is gorgeous looking film. Gorgeous to look at, which is one of the things in animation I think a lot of times you need. You need to have a visual style that is either gorgeous or at least unique enough to keep the attention. Something can be ugly and still be interesting to look at. The characters are also, like, Roz is, I believe that's her robot's name. Like, you just feel this robot growing and adapting and learning to love and care and, like, the trials that come with it. and like this journey. I love the fact there's no real villain in it, just like with Inside Out 2 coming up. There's no real villain in this movie. There is an antagonist near the end, but it's not really a villain. The villain is the circumstance, if nothing else. It's the trial through adversity kind of thing. And the ultimate resolve and where it ends, and like the whole idea of communion and coming together as like a community. Man, it really is just a wonderful, wonderful film. And a beautiful soundtrack too. Oh my god, not soundtrack, but a score. Beautiful score to this movie. Absolutely. But yeah, the minute I said this was number one, and then I compared it to Inside Out 2, you knew it. Inside Out 2, number one animated film of the year, and one of my top 10 films of the year. I won't say where it is on the top 10 list, but it's on the top 10 list. This did the nigh impossible. It took the original film, which frankly is as close to a masterpiece as I think you can make modern animation, and elevated it. It made it. Riley's now going into high school. We're following her in further. We have new emotions. It's new struggles, and they were able to capture what I think a lot of teens, young people, what we all now, especially when we, as a guy in his 30s now, when I look back at my teens, I'm like, some of that's spot on to what you're feeling. And it did something that's almost, it's obscenely hard to do. It was at least as good as, and debatably better than the original. And they said, oh no, we're done at Inside Out 2. It's like, motherfucker, you just became the highest grossing animated film of all time, highest grossing film of the year, and if I'm not mistaken, the eighth highest grossing film of all time. Sorry to say, you're making a third one, because Disney liked that cheddar. And can you really blame them? I mean, look, Joker 2 might have been a mistake. An Inside Out 3, if you can do it with as much love and care as these two films, that's not a goddamn mistake. Because the beauty of this series, and I'm sure they at least considered it when making the film initially, is that you can keep going on this franchise until Riley pretty much is an old woman and dies. And then maybe you follow her grandchildren or something like that. Or at least until she reaches adulthood. Adulthood has her own kid, and then the journey begins again, and then you make a spin-off, and you can literally keep doing this over and over again. Eventually, you will just stagnate and do the same things over and over again. But the fact is, because she's only, when we reach the end of the movie, at the beginning of high school. Now, if you do the next one, she's going out of high school. She's going into college. If you do a fourth one, she now has graduated. Now she's going into adulthood parenthood. And I think that's honestly where you would end it. If you were to continue this series, you end it with her becoming a parent. That's where you end it. So, yeah, either way, though, they did the impossible. I liked every new emotion, even anxiety, who is technically the bad guy. It's not evil. I mean, it's the road to hell is paved with the best intentions, and that's exactly what happened here. And that scene at the end, the true, like, the visualization of what a panic attack truly looks like, what anxiety can do to you. It's really was such a great resolution at the end. It was fantastic. It was just it's hard to say, I really don't like using perfection very much, but I can honestly say it kind of was a perfect sequel, at least. Maybe kind of a perfect film in many ways. So, I mean, it is just fantastic. Just to recap, number one, my number seven. Number 7 was Despicable Me 4. An okay film, nothing to write home about, but okay. Garfield, again, not a bad film, an okay film. It's definitely better than Despicable Me, I think. I'd rewatch it again over Despicable Me pretty quick. But nothing, again, to write home about. Then Kung Fu Panda 4. Honestly, it's the weakest of the series, but still a very good movie. Still got good morals to teach. It's beautiful to look at. And like I said about Despicable Me, it could be, if nothing else, it could be an hour and a half babysitter for you. Coming in number 4, was Transformers 1, a great reintroduction to the Transformers. It definitely is tackling more of the lore, more of the relationships. Hopefully they saw that the audience people who did see it really liked it. And hopefully they can bring the Transformers franchise back into prominence, because man, Transformers suffered big under Michael Bay. It really did. Then number 3 was Moana 2. Again, a film that's not as good as its predecessor, but still a fantastic film. I think the ending is better executed and just better handled, and opens the doors up for more films than the original ending did. I still love Maui. It's Moana together. It still looks good. Songs aren't as good, but I did like a couple of the songs, definitely. And number 2, it was the Wild. Number 2, it was the Wild. Come on. There we go. Number 2 was the Wild Robot. Again, I was just kind of floored by this film. I really was. It was beautiful. It was fantastic. It was heartfelt. I got teary-eyed in many spots. It was just a wonderful experience. But again, at number 1, Inside Out 2. Again, this and Wild Robot really were the pedestal this year to kind of try to topple over, and all the other animated stuff came close. Some of them came close, but didn't get close enough. Moana 2 could have been in my number 2, or probably not my number 1, because it would have been near impossible to overtake Inside Out 2, in my opinion. But it had the potential, at least. If they just had been planned as a movie, better structured, maybe handle some of the characters better, maybe we could have gotten there. But as it is, still a fantastic time. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys for the next one, which will be pretty soon. Later.